We're going to get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Wesley G. Morgan. Mr. Morgan is a native of Detroit. He is a graduate of Grand Valley State University, where he earned his bachelor's in elementary education. He also has a master's degree in counseling. He attended Grand Rapids Theological Seminary. He is a full-time therapist with adolescents, family, and behavioral health, where he provides counseling services to individuals as well as to couples, providing couples with counseling. He also runs the men's behavioral health group there. Mr. Morgan is married to Artina. They've been married for more than 12 years. He is also the father of 3 children, and he wants me to point out that he loves God. So let's give Mr. Morgan a round of applause as he comes to us today.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right. So, okay, this is good. I'm trying to see how I can talk to everybody. It's an honor to be here to talk about mental health in the African American community, and I think this is an important topic, especially now with what we see going on in society today. So my goal today is really to walk through some of the stigmas within the African American community, but I think it's very important that we just take time and really appreciate those who are, the committee and everyone who's putting on this conference, because the information that you're receiving today is priceless and it's much needed. So give yourself a round of applause for coming in and spending this Saturday and educating yourself. So that's a good thing. I will do my best to make sure I leave a lot of time for us to ask questions, engage, and make sure if you have any questions, I have information up here at the end of our presentation. But let's look over our presentation overview, and hopefully I'm not really standing in any of your way so you can see exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So I want to identify some of the stigmas within the African American community. We're going to learn the definition of mental health and identify different warning signs and symptoms, have a discussion on the importance of mental health, and identify services within our community, and then we will end with questions and answers. So, who are these people? Someone shout out some of the names you see.
Oprah.
You see Oprah, okay?
And Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Nicki Minaj, all right? Who else do you see? Now, I know the older generation may not know. Y'all might know Oprah. That's about it. Jay-Z and Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy. All right. I heard Money. I heard Superstars. What else? They're black. Okay? Anything else about these individuals? Every one of these individuals that you see on the screen right now, they all have investments. They are making money, or a better way to say this, money is being made on their behalf, and they're not even showing them. So they have tons of investments. Matter of fact, Nas, if I'm not mistaken, just within the last 2 to 3 weeks, just received, if I read this correctly, over $1 billion investment because of what he is choosing to do. I believe it was with alcohol. No, it wasn't alcohol. It was, I'm trying to remember. I read a lot of articles, sorry. So I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. But Nas just received a huge investment, and it's in the billions. And so he made an investment to make money for himself. We all know about Oprah and Puff Daddy and all of those things. And I'll come back to that in a second. All right? What about this? What do you see on the screen? Same thing before. You see Michael Jordan shoes. Same thing. My bad. I'm looking at my screen. I'm sorry. So you see Michael Jordan shoes. You see, what else do you see? A Bentley in the house. Now I know y'all asking, what does this have anything to do with mental health? What I want to show you is that where we are at mentally speaking, These are where we see or spend our investments. It's based upon the people that we're familiar with. We're all familiar with Puff Daddy. We all familiar with Nas and Oprah. But notice that we responded based upon their material wealth and some of the things that has made them known. Now, these next things, we need shoes to wear, but we like Bentleys, we like nice things, we like homes, but we always go big. I want to ask you a question. The reason why I showed these pictures, how much time and energy are you spending outside of today, right now, in regards to your health? And to take it a step further, how much time are you spending in regards to mental health? We will waste a lot of time trying to look good. We all need a home to stay in, there's nothing wrong with that. But we will spend more time trying to have the best, but we suffer internally. We want to have the nice glasses, the nice suits, and we want to present ourselves in a good manner. That's just the history of who we are. But all of those people that I showed you previously, they have money, but all of them are making investments to make more money and make more money. And yes, some of them are helping out the community, but the purpose and the word that I want you to focus on is the word investment. How are you investing in your mental health today? And even not only just today, but for the rest of your life. Now, let's see. This just came out last week. Kevin Love is an individual who played for the NBA. He's in the NBA. And he wrote, mental health isn't just an athlete thing. What you do for a living doesn't have to define who you are. This is an everyone thing. So we see these stars now, they're starting to expose themselves internally. We know them based upon how good they are, their statistics. We know what type of car they drive and all of those things and how many points they can score. But you don't hear too much of this. So this was something a quote that he made. And then here's another one. DeMar wrote this depression gets the best of me. That was recently, if I'm not mistaken, it was last month. And we're starting to hear more about mental health in our community. So it's not just something that we see on TV, and we can cut on the TV every single day. We see something in regards to mental health. Unfortunately, people are losing their lives because of mental health. So this is an important topic, especially for the African American community, because some of the things we say and even our environments, trust me, I was raised in a house and my mom and dad said, what happens in this house stays in this house. So that means, in other words, you're not going outside of this house telling our business and making us look crazy, because we were more concerned about how people perceive us rather than getting help. So let's start off with some of the stigmas within the African American community. There's a misunderstanding that, if you go see a therapist, I am not a psychiatrist, I am not a psychologist, I'm a therapist, which means I do not qualify to be defined as a shrink. But in our community, and I know we are getting better, I'm not just saying this is right now, but in our community, in the past, it was, you're going to talk to somebody, you're going to see a shrink. And in our mindset, that means you were what? Crazy. You was crazy. You crazy, so you need to go talk to somebody. And so that's a misunderstanding, because a shrink is really a psychiatrist, which a psychiatrist, they give out medication. They talk to you for a few minutes, hear some of your symptoms, and then they assign you some medication to help with you. And in our world, we will say in our language, to help you stop being crazy, calm you down. In the past, we had a lot of people sending our kids to these offices because we were so hyper in class. It wasn't, we were just being kids. But what did they do? Prescribed us some what? Ritalin. Calm us down. And it's really a mental thing. It's just a misunderstanding. Another stigma is, it's shameful to say you're getting help. What's wrong with saying I left to go get some help, or I'm working with a therapist? What's interesting that I see every day in my office, I will see the African American, I will see black folks come into our office, and they work, but they will only go so far. Now, when I'm working with, Caucasians and different other, they will stay in it for a whole year and a half until they get the result that they're coming in. They want to reach the goal. They want mental peace. We start off and then we stop because your name get out there, you tell someone, you're talking to someone, and now it's a shameful thing. So we're scared to say, I need help. Another stigma would be, it's a weakness. It's a sign of weakness that, especially us men. Men are harder to pull into counseling. Women, I think if you're okay, you'll come to counseling easily. Men, we're a little stubborn because we know it all. And if we don't know it all, we're going to figure it out. Or we're going to talk to Uncle Tony, who's on the front porch drinking at 40. And we're going to talk to Uncle Tony, and he been around a little bit, so we just got to get through. But what we fail to understand is that while we're doing all of that stuff, we're internalizing our mental thoughts, and it's really stressing us out. And one of the main factors that, especially for males, African American men, that kills us is stress. And so it's not weak. I will say the opposite. I think you are weak if you fail to invest in yourself. What's wrong with investing in yourself? Absolutely nothing. We invest in ourselves. We will stand in line for some Chick-fil-A. We will stand in line for some Jordans. And the only thing they do, you can go to Payless and put on this, $9 pair of shoes. They do the same. The Jordan's not going to make you smarter. They're not going to give you a full ride scholarship. And I'm not knocking Jordans because that picture, I chose that picture specifically because I love them pair, but I refuse to pay anything over $100 for some shoes. I just can't do it. But it's just an investment for me. But you're not weak. My point is, you're not weak for getting help. Therapy is a waste of time. How many of us have been anywhere in life, whether it's a restaurant or Cedar Point, Disney World, and you thought it was a waste of time? Show of hands. You've been anywhere. It doesn't have to be an attraction. Why was it a waste of time? Just shout something out.
Too many people.
Too many people, okay? I saw more hands than that. One more. Waste of time.
Not even enjoyment from it.
Not an enjoyment. So we will say that counseling is a waste of time. Now, in our thinking, we will say, why would I come sit across from somebody and tell them all my problems? I can sit at home and tell somebody else. I can tell my cousin. But here's the problem with that. Your cousin or your relative, they're not trained. They're not educated to deal with some of those things. Like, don't get me wrong. Most of what I use in counseling is not all textbook. It's really life experiences. And then of course, I'll use the Bible as my foundation, but you don't hear all the, spiritual things in my office. However, it's very strategic, but we will say counseling is a waste of time because I can just talk to anybody. And I don't find that true, especially as a therapist. So of course I'm going to side on, I'm going to be with the therapist side. It's not a waste of time. It is an investment. Everybody say investment. Counseling is an investment. It's not a waste of time. Anytime you take time out for yourself is an investment. We will go get a massage. You go get a haircut. You go get your hair done. You get that weave up there. You get the eyebrows. We get, now men, we used to make fun of the ladies with the weave and all that stuff. Now we spraying our beards and we doing all the identical. But that is an investment because anywhere you put your money at is an investment. Ma'am, you was going to say something? Oh, okay. I promise you, I don't even know everyone in this room, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody in your family that's being affected as we speak by mental health. I'm pretty sure. Matter of fact, about 99.9%. Y'all know that cousin, y'all, that uncle that continue to keep drinking and they can't even talk to you unless they have a drink. And it's not just the uncle. We have a lot of family situations, sexual stuff that's happening. So these are some of the stigmas, not all of them. So I want to take a moment and define really what is mental health. It says up here, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Mental health affects the way we think, the way we feel, Mental health is about perception. It's about the things that we hear, see, even really dealing with the five senses. A mental illness is a disease that causes mild to severe disturbances in thought and or behavior. So you're not defined as crazy. When I was little, I'll share this with you, and I'm just being honest. When I was little growing up, especially with some of my cousins on the east side of the state, we used to say this term all the time, use it so wrong. Oh, he just retarded. And we just laugh. Now I'm offended when I hear that, because now I know what it means. So I'm offended when I hear, ha ha ha, you retarded. I don't try to, you gotta be careful. I don't try to check anybody, because that's not my job. But I just try to educate as best as I can. But retarded that's a mental diagnosis. So to call someone retarded will be just like someone calling us the N-word. Right. We get offended, we pull out our guns, we're ready to fight. So mental health is a serious thing. So I know we can say, oh, he's just crazy and stuff. It's nothing wrong with that, depending on how you're using it. But mental health is very serious. Another definition here that I wrote, there are more than 200 classified forms of mental illness. Over 200 classified forms, diagnosis of mental illness. Do you know how many? That's a lot. Which means somewhere on that spectrum, we're gonna fall. We can find a relative that's gonna fall on that spectrum. So some of the more common diagnosis, borderline personality disorder, depression, anxiety, even anger, dementia, schizophrenia, mood disorders. So these things are real, and we see them every day, and sometimes we engage with people with mental illness and we don't even know. And I go to church, love God, saved, sanctified, all that good stuff. Half of it we see every Sunday. And it's just mistaken as emotionalism. And I know I'm stepping, I gotta be careful with that, but it's the truth.
Take your time.
When we look at our church, even in our church, some of that is not Jesus. Just use discernment. It's not Jesus. It's easy to really humble yourself and be unified with people. But some of that is, I just, for real, honestly, forgot to take my medicine this morning. So as a result, the securities and the deacons gonna have to deal with, Brother Johnny, because the Holy Ghost just really got on him this morning. No, Brother Johnny forgot to take his medication. Now, I'm an advocate for medication, and I'm also against it. Now, how can I break that up? I'm an advocate for it, but I'm also against it. Let me explain. I'm against it because there are individuals who use medication and think that's all they need. Just give me this pill. Let me be the first one to tell you. Now, I'm not a doctor, so you can challenge it all you want, but I'm on the front line of mental health. I see this stuff every single day. So it's not just opinion, I'm experiencing it. When you are dependent on medication versus putting in the work, you won't see the result that you're looking for. It's a dependency. So you believing that this pill is going to help me. Now, this is why I say I'm for it. I'm an advocate. If there is a biological aspect taking place, okay, meaning that the brain may be some dysfunctions there, and you didn't do anything, some of the stuff we do, we can't control everything in our body, but if there is some biological factors that we have to consider, what medication does is just balance that out. So medication helps us function better. So there's nothing wrong with medication, but notice what I just said. It balances it out and helps us function, but it's not going to solve the trauma and the triggers that you continue to experience on an everyday basis, which means you're going to have to take some time out, make some investments, and go after the mental. So medication will help you understand the mental a little better. So that's what I meant by I'm an advocate for medication, and I'm also against it. So I don't want you just dependent. Yes, sir.
Can I ask two questions?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
The questions, one has to do with youth. I mean, is there, how does this apply to young folk that are,
That's a very good question. I hear what you're saying.
And the second of all is that how does this apply to minorities? Is there a predominant theme with minorities?
This whole presentation is really geared for African Americans. So everything I say, and I'm just gonna stop trying to sound all deep, it's for black people. So everything you hear me say today is for the black family. Now I know everything, I know you're not black, but you're here learning, so it qualifies outside of our race too. Mental health, and to answer your first question, and I know today's conference is really centered for our youth. Mental health affects our youth, it affects young adults, adulthood, it even affects, let me see, the oldest person I have right now that I see, I believe it's 65. So it affects all ages. So mental health affects everyone. And what I will really want, if I can just kind of backtrack, when I kept saying investments, I want our youth to understand, and even our adults. I just don't want to single out our youth because we just, oh, let's throw the youth in here. No, some of us adults need to throw ourselves in counseling too. So this applies to everyone. Everybody say everyone. Everyone. So it's the youth, it's me, it's your cousin, your auntie, the deacon board, everybody here, security team. I work on our security team, so it applies to everybody. So very good question. So let's continue. What are some of the signs? And this is really going to answer some of your questions. Within the African American community, some of the warning signs, we have what we call confused thinking, prolonged depression. We hesitate. In my office, when I see clients, especially black clients, young teenagers, it takes at least a month to 2 months for me to crack them. And what I mean by crack them, that means for them to feel comfortable, to actually open up and say, oh, I see somebody that looks like me. Okay, you don't sound, you sound okay that I can talk to. You're gonna tell my mama, you're gonna tell my dad, you're gonna tell them. So once we get past all of that, that's when help can start. And I will say for the older generation that's present, I understand that y'all was raised in, in a different time. And in my household, the belt did that was all the talking. My dad was born and raised in Alabama, and there was no middle ground. There was no, let's sit down and discuss this and come up with a better way. The better way was, what did I say? I only speak one time. This belt will give you clarity, so that way we don't have a following problem. Okay, that's nice. It helped me, and I have no problem with it. However, we living in a different day and time. You go ahead and pull out your belt right now and let you mistakenly hit your child too hard, and they have just a little mark on them. Yeah, that belt answered you right on in jail. So it might have worked then, and I'm not saying it doesn't work now, because it do. I'm a firm believer in that. Don't get it twisted. I love discipline, but it has to be, you can't lose control, right? And so what I'm saying, even with the confused thinking, some of the things our kids say, I'm gonna kill myself. Just the other day, our office we deal with Caledonian, I'm pretty sure y'all saw that on the news, an 8th grader committed suicide. 8th grade, which means he's 13, 12 or 13. That's sad. Took his life. Parents don't know why. We have a lot of clients that we see from that school district. So immediately, my clients reaching out, and our office was affected by that young man's decision to end his life. 8th grade. So when we talk about how does this affect us young people and even adults, look for the warning signs. Is your child, all the children over here playing, and your child sitting over in the corner, facing the wall, turned around, not even engaged with anything? What's their motivation? They don't have any motivation. You don't see anything with your child, like nothing. They don't even want to play with a toy, a PlayStation, something. Or you tell them to do something, they turn around and cuss you out. No, that's not your child crazy. No, your child needs some help. There's an imbalance present. Some more warning signs. Excessive fears and worries about social anxiety. Dramatic change in eating and sleeping habits. Your child is not sleeping. It's not just, they may need a sleep study test, but it may be something else there. I heard upstairs briefly that children are being bullied via electronics, cell phones, Facebook, social media. So it's no more walking up to you, punching you in your face, we're gonna jump you after school. It's more so social media. I'm gonna kill you, or, oh, Snapchat, I got you taking this picture. You know, I gotta be careful what I say. I wanna give you something relevant here. I had a client here who was exposed via social media because of something he did with a young lady at school. Needless to say, that client is right now, as we speak, not in none of the school districts in the city of Grand Rapids as a result of his actions. Now, there were some things, and he's been working in mental health, but I'm just saying that's another way, a form of bullying, some warning signs, and you just have to see and pay attention. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, as a retired school social worker, I used to deal with a lot of young ladies, and I'm talking about this was middle school and high school, cutting. And
Yo.
can you address that, because that is an issue, and I don't know how many of my African American princesses are often to cutting.
Yeah.
But that is a thing now in the community, and our parents need to be aware of people taking sharp objects and cutting themselves. And so could you address that?
Yeah, I'm gonna touch that, that's kind of at the tail end, because I'm gonna throw in a little bit of what our office, what I do on a daily basis. But to address it right now, though, in the African American community, we don't see it as much compared to Caucasians. So, for example, in the office, our office is known for what we call DBT. I'll go through that later on. DBT means dialectical behavioral therapy. This style of therapy was specifically made for individuals who were diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And as a result, we, like self-harm, and that's what we mean by cutting. Self-harm is huge. It goes with cutting, it goes with sets. You name it, any objects. It's not just cutting, it's razor blades. It's they're trying to take their life. If parents, if you're not up to speed with, let's see, a Netflix series last year, came out last year and it's starting again in May, I believe. It's called 13 Reasons Why. You need to catch up to speed. Look at it. It's a nice series on Netflix, but the whole series is about this young lady who commits suicide. And it's fantasized, where she leaves all these tapes. And so I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but some of these warning signs, like in our community, it may not be cutting, but it sets, anger. I see a lot of anger and depression more in our community than the self-harm type behaviors. And then as we get older, we start to our dependency, meaning alcohol, sex. Your child don't want to never be at home, and they're willing to do that any and everywhere outside at the mall. It's seen. So these are some of the warning signs and symptoms. I'm not going to read every one of them. If it's older kids, look for the substance. Oh, I gotta have weed. Do you know how hard it is right now to really help a child understand that they do not have to smoke weed? That's why I'm so great right now. Honestly speaking, for a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, those vapes, oh my God. Our kids depend so much on vapes and substance use, and sadly to say, do you know this is actually in elementary school too?
Wow.
Used to be high school where we start, maybe around sophomore, junior year. No. Kids are in the 5th, 4th grade right now, touching each other, doing sexual acts in the 4th grade. I'm not making none of this up. This is stuff I see every single day. And so when we're talking about vapes, vape is huge. They walk around because they have to feel a part of a community. Go back to those previous slides of Puff Daddy and Nas and all those. They're making investments to feel connected. So now we have a dilemma. They're faced with a problem. Do I want to fit in with my family, or do I want to fit in with society? What are they showing me on social media? And it's not even no difference from when I was a teenager. You know, we had certain rappers and we listened to them, but you know how silly we look walking down the street and we doing all of this, but to them they don't look silly because that's who they are. That's their role models. And so we spend more time saying, y'all look like idiots, y'all look like fools walking down and your pants are sagging, when really, you're missing the message that they're sending you. The message they're sending you is they need a connection. They're looking for a connection. And we have to be very strategic in how we connect with our youth. So some of the warning signs and symptoms, again, I'm not going to go through this, but this I will spend time on. Now, 13.2% of the U.S. population identifies as black or African American. 13.2%. That is 6.8 million people. Somebody say 6.8 million people. That's a lot. We dominate, all right? Of those, over 16% had a diagnosable mental illness in the past year. Okay? 16% had a diagnosis. Out of that 6.8 million black people, 16% had a mental health diagnosis. And then more people than the population of Chicago, all 6.8 million people. That means it's more than just Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, all combined together. So it's showing you that mental health is serious. And what I want our youth to understand, please do not hesitate. And I heard when we were talking about bullying upstairs, please open up your mouth. Don't never think there's no one out here to help you. Because what you fail to realize is that, no, we may not have been through, traveling down your road, but we just didn't get here yesterday. Some of us, if I dare have to pull back the curtain on some of our lives, these adults, your deacon board is real ugly. It's uglier than what you think and what you see in a nice blouse and a suit and a tie. And so, really, we've been through something. And so we may try to direct you, and we just telling you what we know. Just like our experiences, we have a lot in common, but what happens is you get caught up in your mind internally, and you think you can't relate to us because we're too old. Yes, sir.
One thing that you said, and I don't want to get sidetracked, but
no, go ahead.
This is like my opinion for a while. You pinpointed like specifically black people, and one thing about mental health, me learning some things of it, not as astute as you,
yeah,
but we almost need a separate diagnosis compared to how they judge everybody. So for example, ODD, oppositional defiant disorder.
Yeah, I'll talk about that on Monday.
Okay, so you take the original diagnosis, whatever it is, fine.
Yeah.
But then you apply it to a neighborhood where a mom and dad is fighting, the first child's interaction with authority, you show up, you take my dad away. CPS is called. You show up, you take me and my brothers and sisters away.
That's right.
You told me to tell you what was going wrong. I said, well, my mama got drunk and my dad was mad and then he hit her and I told you the truth as a child, and then now you removed us from the home permanently.
Yeah.
And so I don't trust authority.
Yeah.
That is not a mental illness. That is common sense. Every time I trusted you, somebody who said they was in authority, you let me down.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm not going to trust any more authorities. And then yet later on, somebody will come and diagnose this young person as oppositional defiant disorder. He need this, he need that, he need this. And you have that throughout our community.
Right.
And so when we put a blanket diagnosis under, so even under, like when we say bullying and we say all these different things, we just take it back real quickly 400 years after you release all these post-traumatic stress disorder victims out of slavery.
That's right.
And we were sent off, and we've never had a treatment plan.
Right.
And so, how do we somehow go back, separate ourselves in the sense of diagnosing, and like I agree with you, like if it's organic, fine.
Yeah.
But some of the things are environmental and social.
Almost definitely.
That affect our community, that causes mental stress and disorder.
Very well said. Let's travel back to history. The word I'm going to throw out, I like to just focus on one word to kind of apply and bring clarity. The word I want to focus on is understanding. You can't move in life or you can't make moves. You cannot get better without understanding. Understanding applies across the board. All right? So we take a history lesson like you're saying, okay, go back to slavery. We're forced to come here. We're mistreated. We don't have services. All right? Let's fast forward to segregation. Still with that same mentality, don't lose that. All of those things going on, we're forced into segregation. Why in the world, as a black man, will I go get help talking to a white man when y'all are treating me differently? I don't have the same services and the same money and the same opportunities to get the help that you have. My insurance copay is, $400 or $500. You paying $5. And then, like you said, the system is not made to support us. But here lies one issue. We have been a people who have been oppressed, but still survive. We have so much power. We have so much knowledge. And I hate to say it this way, but sometimes it is misplaced in the area of focus. So we can make every excuse possible, but when we want to do what we want to do, we got to do it at the end of the day. So knowing that, understanding that the system is really not supporting me, so my dad hit my mom, like you're saying, and then you take my father away, now my home don't have the protection and the guidance it needs because the system has taken my dad away because of a marriage going on. And then on top of that, now we don't have the income and the services. My mom don't want to deal with me and things get out of control. So how do I supposed to help myself? How do I supposed to, work with you? I started off saying that it takes me sometimes a month, 2 months, even longer, depending on the client, to break, and I shouldn't use the word break, but to build rapport. That's why I said even earlier, don't walk up to a youth and tell them to pull their pants up. Because not only will they turn around and might smack you and hurt you, you may receive some information that you didn't want to receive. Try to build rapport with that youth. How about walk up to that youth and say, hey, how are you doing? You have a good day. And especially you spiritual, add something on the back of that. You have a blessed day. And just start connecting with them. So every time you see that person, there's a gentleman right now that he don't know it, but I've been praying for him and I'm connecting with him. He works at a gas station, and I'm telling you, everybody will write him off if they look at him. But if we focus on building rapport with our youth, what should we do? Okay, knowing that the youth is not going to come in, I got a phone call last night, to be honest with you, and the lady said, we adopted 2 young black kids from birth. I need help, because we have taken them to every therapist that we can in this community, and it's not working. I wonder why. Who are they seeing across from them? So not only is this a challenge, but it's really encouraging, because what are we spending our time? We're so busy and cooped up in our house and doing what's comfortable, but how are we impacting the community? How do we know what services are out there? Do we trust your services? So it's building rapport really that will help that young man, that young lady that's in a house, a single parent house, is offering up your time. And since we're in church, let's go to church. What did Jesus do? That's a statement, but no, I'm making a statement. I'm asking you a question. The number one thing Jesus did was serve. We have a problem serving. Because if it's not bettering us, if we're not getting recognized, we don't want to deal with it. Counseling, and let me step outside the world of counseling for a moment. Building rapport and building relationship is going to cost you. It's going to cost you some finances. It's going to cost you some time. It's going to cost you some prayer. But look at the investment that you're making. If you can save one child off this street, you just made a world of difference. From stopping them from hurting themselves, from stopping a generational thing taking place where that generational pattern is now repeated, but because you stepped in and you helped out and you invested your time and your energy and you build rapport to really get to know someone, because everything isn't not mental. Sometimes it's just take our time and understand what are we dealing with? What type of person are we dealing with? Understanding the family. So we have a lot of work to do. We can easily say take this pill, but as I stated earlier, the pill is not going to solve the problem. It will help us out and help that person function a little better, but it's not the only answer. Some more things to consider, and we kind of went there already, was the history of our country, historically, the negative treatment that we have received. We used test dummies in the back in the day, giving pills and shots and shooting us up with all types of things. So why would we want to go get mental health or get some help, and we were set up in the past. So these are things we have to consider when we're thinking mental health. We have to think of our past and why. That's why I don't, point fingers or point blame, but understanding what help us understand other people and to build our community. So according to what we see here, we don't really have that much interest because it's not well talked about in our community. What's talked about most in our community as black people? Sports, who got shot on the news, and then why we coming from single families. I heard somebody else say something.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, right. And we speak on a bunch of stuff that we don't even know. We just sharing our feelings. But there's nothing wrong with that because we don't want to have to experience it every day too, right? So these are things to consider when we talk about mental health. All right. Let me go back. Okay. Only about 1/4 of African Americans seek mental health care compared to 40% of whites. Only about 1/4 of African Americans seek mental health care. And as you stated earlier, due to misdiagnosis, treatment, as of 2012, 19% of African Americans had no form of health insurance. Now that's when President Barack Obama, God knows we miss him, but he was started out with that Affordable Care Act, giving us the opportunity to get mental health. Now, as much as I love counseling, I'm not doing no hookups. I didn't go to school for hookups. I love black people, but I'm not doing it. But I try to meet the need. I'm not focused on let me get my pockets rich. I'm really trying to help meet the need, but I'm not doing no hookups like, oh, you just meet with him. Do you know how draining it is to counsel 50 minutes, 45 minutes? Mentally, it's a lot that goes into it. So I didn't go to school for free. So neither should you receive counseling for free.
Makes sense, brother.
And the mic drop. So I'm just playing. 15.9% of black African Americans versus 11.1% of white Americans were still uninsured in 2014. That's a big difference. So it's showing you things to consider. We don't have access to health care. And so it wasn't really beneficial for us. So that's another stigma, or not even stigma, that's another problem that we face. We want to get help, but we're not afforded the opportunity to get that. All right? African Americans sometimes experience more severe forms of mental health conditions due to unmet needs and other barriers. I look at Chicago, for example. Chicago every year is in the news because of the amount of killings that is taking place in that city. What bothers me is like, how can a person, I have seen someone die personally, and that still is embedded in my thinking. I can only imagine what you experience at home in your environments of how that's impacting you. And how do we cope? How do we deal with it? Now, I'll say this, and I know I'm in church and I'm saying it very respectful. I'll say it in my church as well. Our pastors can only do so much. Amen. All right? And if we want them to live a long life, we can't kill them. We're thinking they should be at your beck and need every single time. But a pastor, some pastors, if they're not, depending on where their degree lands, most pastors are trained in crisis counseling. That's about it. What that means is your pastor can help provide or bring stability. Just for right now, they'll bring stability in this situation. Now the rest of your life, the rest of the months and years, you need help. And that's where mental health come in. That's where therapists come in. That's where psychologists will come in. Sitting down with the counselor and talking about that, because I like to give this imagery. A counselor literally will enter your life and won't leave until you say it's time for them to leave. Whereas, and again, nothing against pastors, where a pastor will come in, they will support you and get you situated, but you need someone to pass that on to. And so even when we're thinking of things to consider, you deal with so much. There's so many mental health needs here. Major depression, suicide among young African American men. Research shows that we are more apt to commit suicide, our males are, than white males. Even though the statistics shows that white males are committing suicide more, it's rising in our community because they're losing hope. The resources is not there. How many people care about you? You know, are they showing up to your football games and the sports? Are they taking time? All of these things play a factor in mental health and how it affects our community.